Hello and welcome to another week in our garden. Now it's a good afternoon. We're a little bit later today because it was quite cold this morning. It's been quite a bad week with snow and a very cold wind. We've had morning frosts and all sorts, but we got through it and hopefully it will get a little bit better next week. Now a few of you have asked me for the sizes and how I make these frames to hold the insect mesh on the cabbages, etc. So I thought I'd start by showing you how I make them. Quite basic really, don't take long, but I'll just show you two that I've already made, waiting for painting actually, but it was too wet to paint. Now the actual size of the arch is governed by the width of your insect mesh. Now these are made for an insect mesh. I do believe in feet it was 10 feet 2 inches wide, the insect mesh, and so the legs are a little bit longer so they can go in the ground a little bit, but they will, at the measurements we use for that 10 foot 2 inch wide insect mesh, these fit beautifully, but I'll show you the measurements and now it's done anyway. Now the sheets, like I said, the sheets of insect mesh that we buy from Amazon are 10 foot 2 inches wide, or 310 centimeters wide. That means that my frames have to be a little bit smaller than that so we can pin it into the soil at the sides. There is a little bit of adjustment by pushing the frames a little bit further into the soil, but you don't want them too far in the soil because that lessens the growing room you have at the top. How I make them, I have two pieces that I keep as templates for the top and the very top where they hold them all together. I'll show you that in a moment. The side piece that I use is, there you are, it's 3 feet, or if you like 92 centimeters. There, look, can you see? All the legs I do, they're at 70 centimeters, or what does 70 centimeters come to? About 2 foot 2, 2 foot 3 for your side leg. So there should be about 70. There they are, look. 70 or 27.5 inches, and that is basically it. I cut this out first and all I do is put it on top of the long length of lat I've got and just draw in there at each end and just cut that V out, nothing special. So then I take these, I cut the top as well, so that's always about the same when we do it, until we got these, look, quite simple. To do that, I've drilled these ready to save time really. So there you are, that's all I do. Look, I make these two of those, one of those, and drill them together. I'm using 30 centimeter screws because they'll fit just nicely. You don't want them too long, they stick out the other side, and anything that pointy on this will snag on the net, so you have to be careful. I just pop those in and then I screw them down. Now when I make these other ones, I've actually put in Gorilla Glue. You know, you wet it, you put your Gorilla Glue on and then it sticks it very firm, but it's such a messy job, I'm not going to do it for this display. Then we just screw them down. That's got a snag on it there, look, so take that off because that'll catch. That's it. Now if you're That's not a bad joint, but if your joint's a little bit out, don't worry, because if you're using Gorilla Glue anyway, it'll fill it up for you. And then I turn it flat. This is one of the legs. You just try it both ways, so it's the other way. Look, the cutting's not perfect, but that's fine just for the legs. And then I make these, I think it was 5-inch, I can't remember now, 7-inch, sorry, 7-inch, and just cut the edges off, but do smooth them so it doesn't catch on the mesh. That will go on there just away from the edge a bit, so it don't catch on your mesh. Same again. Four screws. And if you're putting the Gorilla Glue in there, apart from being very messy job, it will fill all the little gaps etc. in for you. It does swell up. But just for this will do. Don't screw too hard because you'll split these, and they will split quite easily. That's that one on. Now we do the other side, just the same. Look. That's not a bad joint, so we'll work on that. Then take this, remember to put it in a little bit, and then I'll drop the screws in. And the other thing is, I do paint them. I'll show you the paint that I'm using at the moment. Tighten your joint up. I do paint them because they do stand in all weathers out there. Some of them stand through the winter. And I also try and paint them, if I can, in the pieces you can't get to before I assemble. The wood is what I actually bought in quite long lengths and thicker, and then I got the saw, the power saw, and I just ripped them down. So they do vary a little bit. Just turn it over for you. There you are. That's another frame done. 3 of those will make a decent tunnel. I am going to use these top pieces. These I'm going to screw on the top to take the mesh, and they're also a lot longer than what I normally use, but to save me making more frames I'm going to use these longer bits. You can see how I do my measuring. I just go around and make lines on things, but it works. So those will be painted. Right, this is the paint I'm using. This is called Willow. They don't actually make the dark green anymore, so we've had to change to this one. The one we had was quite dark, if you remember. I've still got a few frames with that dark colour on, but this will be the new frame colour, Willow. I put fence panel paint on these arches, and what I find is in a bit of sunshine and rain etc, it's gone, it's washed off. This one, garden shades, doesn't wash off. So this one we've been using. This one is what we used last year to hold the tomatoes up, so you can see it's had a wipe obviously, but you can see it's still nice and clean and still there. It hasn't washed off at all. We'll use this Perennial garden shades because it stays on basically. It's a good paint. I'll press on and get these finished. Some of them I make quite high and in that case, because we're higher, we'll need 2 pieces of mesh, so I have to get Diane to the sewing machine to sew. The Brussels ones are this high, so we need that bit more net to cover them, so we put 2 together, and as I say, Diane sews the mesh together on the machine and we go over the 2. I'd do it myself, but a terrible job threading the needle. Now, somebody's been asking me how I go about making my compost in my bins, but I've actually, because the weather's been quite bad, I've been starting to move the compost from bin to bin, so we'll just show you the progress I'm making at the moment. It'll come clear when we're down there. It's a bit windy and cold here, but moving the compost you need a bit of draft to keep you from sweating too much. These are the bins. As you can see, I line them with this mesh. Now the bottom's lined as well, although it wants a little bit more patching doing, but this keeps the rats etc from coming into the bins. If I don't have that, as you can imagine, out in the country we have lots and lots of rats' nests in it, and also it stops the moles from coming up from below. It was only a bit of waste, but it's worked out quite well. Now what I do, look, is I put a bag over the centre, so when I'm shoveling over into this bin it doesn't get all tangled up on there, basically that. Now the compost that we're turning is this bin. As you can see, it's half rotted, but if I leave it there I need to turn it and mix it into this one. You see, that's all been nicely mixed. Now we'll give that 6-7 weeks and I'll have a feel of it, and if it's rotting down nicely then it will be turned finally into this one. This is the bigger bin, and when this is rotted down it takes 2 of these full to fill the big bin, and once in the big bin it's more or less a storage bin then until I want to use it down the garden. But we must keep turning it, and then it's just a case, it looks messy but it's not too bad. I've mixed some straw in there over while we've been filling it up as well. I keep putting a layer of straw in to keep it sweet, and then I just put it into the centre. Something growing there, it's usually always an onion that grows in your bin, so we'll put that somewhere else. I'll just put a pile in there and I'll show you how it's breaking down nicely now. You'll see a worm or 2 in it, but that's good. There's all sorts of bits of wood, well, the twigs really, they can stay in. So let's take one more. As you can see, it's quite good compost. When I get it to here in this bin, it's in a pile, then I just, with the fork, break it and mess it about until it's level and mixed. I don't put straw into the second bin or any accelerator or anything. I just let it get on with it. And this morning when I started, but when I finished it was steaming, it was beginning to get hot, especially lower down. So I'll finish that later today because it's a bit cold here now. In this we put all the green waste off the garden from the house, or when Diane's doing the vegetables, etc. We have all that come down and put in. A few eggshells as well, because the worms like those. And what we don't put in though is meat or cooked foods. You don't put those in your compost. So grass mowings, anything you can get in there to keep feeding it. Now I don't put the horse manure etc. in here. I do put straw from the chickens, and I'm forevermore sweeping up after them, so that goes in here as well. But the actual manure I'll show you in a moment. But that's your compost. You must turn it though, keep it turning. So I turn it once, twice, and then the third time will be out into the garden, and it makes lovely compost. As you've seen in the past, it's a good way of working it. Now it goes without saying that you wouldn't put perennial weeds like twitch etc. in. And the other thing we don't put in ours is potato peel, because if you saw that onion growing, potato peels, they grow worse than that. You'll have a bin full of potato horns where they all grow out the top. Diane will pop you a bit of a list, because I do actually use cardboard, and everything I can get into these that's organic or not perennial goes in. So Diane will put your little list up. I'll just show you the manure bin. This is the manure bin. It's quite big, and it's mainly horse muck from the granddaughter's horses, and Mark brings it in like a builder's bag. He brings me two every now and again. So I put the horse manure in, as you can see, and then I put some barley straw on top. That one's spreading and mixing a bit, and a little bit more over there before we put the next layer on. So you're making a sandwich as you build up. It takes about a year to fill this, and then in the winter I take this board off the front and I slice it down, so I'm getting manure and straw together into the wheelbarrow to take down. So rather than mix it there, I mix it as I slice it off. Now the chickens are playing up a bit, because the two males this time of year are getting a bit huffy with one another and pecking and fighting a little bit. So I've let the younger one, the little grey one, out, and then the other one says, why aren't I out? But none of them come out. The idea is to catch the grey one and put him in. But as I say, they're fighting a little bit, so we'll leave him out for a bit. Now that's, if you want to know anything about the composting, just ask us and we'll let you know. But that's basically it. It's a job that Diane won't do though. Let's go down and have a look at those big arches we made for the Brussels sprout. Now before I go, we'll just round up the end of the frame building. This one is your normal frame like these here, and this one will be for the Brussels sprouts. As you can see, they're a lot taller, and they'll go and these will go side by side like that, with one of those bars across the top, and then the mesh will go over the whole lot. Now the tall tunnels will finish up like this. Can you see the piece across the top? And this is two mesh sewn together in the centre, and it makes this big tunnel that we can actually grow the Brussels sprouts in. Now that'll be it for this week. I do believe it's turning awfully dark, and it's spotting with rain. That could be snow, by the way. I'll just get Di to show you that cloud. We're going to call it a day this week. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. We do appreciate it. Take care, everybody. we'll see you next week, hopefully in a little bit better weather, so we can get these plots planted up. Bye now.